This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Hayom Katzar v'Hamalacha Meruba. It's Erev Shabbos, and it's already late in the day. It's a very short day, but I just putter b'loy klum yavshar. I didn't want the day to go by just without sharing with you a few thoughts on the Parsha and then a few questions on the Parsha. Let's begin with Parak Chav Tes Pasuk Yud. Parak Chav Tes Pasuk Yud, the Pasuk says, Vayihi kashara Yaakov es Rachel. When Yaakov saw Rachel, who's Rachel? Bas Lavan, the daughter of Lavan. Achi Imai, the brother of his mother. V'es Soin Lavan, and the sheep of Lavan. Who's Lavan? Achi Imai, his mother's brother. I mean, we just said who Lavan was. Why are we identifying him again? And then Vayigash Yaakov. Yaakov approached Vayogo Evan Me'al Pi Ha'be'er. Vayashk, and he gave to drink to who? As Soin Lavan. Who's Lavan? Achi Imai. We're identifying Lavan 3 times in this pasuk. What's going on over here? So my friend Rabbi Shui Greenspan asked me this question. So I looked around, and none other than the Arachaim HaKadosh addresses this, and he says the following pshat, and I think we could really build upon it. Arachaim HaKadosh says that Yaakov Avinu, all of his activities with Lavan, taking care of Lavan's sheep, honoring Lavan despite the deceitful nature and activities of Lavan, he did everything out of kibud aim, to honor his mother. He kept on saying, I know the guy is a scoundrel, I know the guy is a crook, but I'm going to honor him and deal with him properly. L'chvoid imi. He constantly reminded himself and articulated, he's my mother's brother, he's my mother's brother, he's my mother's brother, I'm honoring him, I'll covet to my mother's brother. Everything he did to Lavan, Parak Chav Tes Pasuk Yud, because Lavan is Achi Imai, Achi Imai, Achi Imai. That's why the Torah constantly repeats again and again, who's Lavan? Achi Imai. And this fits very well into a theme that we've been developing lately, that the main battle between Yaakov and Esav and Yosef and Esav is that even though Esav was excellent in Kibud Av, he's the paragon of Kibud Av, but Yaakov Avinu, the way he uproots him is by showing Kibud Aim. We said last week that's why Yaakov was holding on to the leg of Esav, so that Esav should not cause, so that Rivka should not have the extra tsar of opening up not only for Esav but for Yaakov as well. And that's why Yosef's name in this week's Parsha is Yosef, because Asaf Elokim es Charpasi, he's always covering up the shame of his mother. And with this we could explain in Parak Chav Tes Pasuk Chaf, Vayavoid Yaakov berachel. Yaakov worked for Rachel Sheva Shanim, 7 years. Vayiu be'enav, it was in his eyes, kiyamim achadim, like a few days. Rashi earlier brings that the 7 years Yaakov worked for Rachel were the yamim achadim that Rivka told Yaakov, Yashavta ima yamim achadim. Why does the Torah have to say it was in Yaakov's eyes, kiyamim achadim? Because every minute that Yaakov worked, his kavana is, the mama told me work kiyamim achadim, so all my work I'm doing to fulfill dibur of shalimi. That's why the Torah reiterates, v'hayivayu be'enav kiyamim achadim, that Yaakov is always mechaven to fulfill the tzivoy of his mother, v'yashav te'imai kiyamim achadim. That's the first idea. Next idea. Take a look in Parak Chav Tes Pasuk Lamed Aleph. I'm just telling you simple diukim of the pasuk. Yaakov lived with Leah. Did she conceive? No. Doesn't say she conceived. Then the pasuk says that Vayavoy Gamel Rachel, he lived with Rachel. He lived with Rachel. Vayehav Games Rachel Mileah. Vayavoy Imo Yoid Shem Shem Rachel. Oh! Vayar Hashem Kisnu Aleah Vayiftach Es Rachma V'Rachel Akara. Now, the pasuk says he lived with Leah. It doesn't say Leah conceived. he lived with Rachel. God saw Leah was hated, and only then did Hashem open up the womb of Leah. Which the implication is that not until Leah was hated did she become pregnant. Now this is a little bit difficult based on that which Chazal say, that Ruvain was Tipa Rishoina Shel Yaakov Avinu, Koichi V'Reishis Oini, and Yaakov lived with Leah a week ago. So the order of the psukim do not seem to be that accurate, because Chazal say that Leah was Nesaber Mebir Rishoina, and Yaakov did not live with Rachel till a week later, and only after that it seems like Hashem allowed Leah to be pregnant. But one thing is clear from the psukim, that not until Leah was a snua did she become pregnant. And this is clearly the idea is Vesolikim Yavakish Nirdaf. God always takes up the cause of the afflicted one. Even though Leah is the afflicted one. Nobody told her to take Rachel Simanim over here. Rachel is the rightful wife. But you see clearly that Hashem is only Yiftach es Rachma Shel Leah only once Kisnua Rachel. Kisnua Leah. I want to share with you another idea. And that is by the birth of the Shvatim, by the birth of Leah, of Levi. Vataharoid vateled bein vatoimer ata hapam yilova ishi elai ki olati l'sheshvanim alkein. So Rashi brings that whoever it says alkein by had a lot of children, except for Levi that the Arain would destroy. It's interesting why alkein would be would signify extra blessing in connection to children. Could be that the reason why alkein signifies extra proliferation is whenever we want to know the meaning of an expression, we always have to look back at the first time it's found in the Torah. The first time we find alkein in the Torah is alkein berach Hashem es Yom HaShabbos. And therefore maybe the words alkein signify and represent extra bracha. Maybe since the words alkein are written, actually it's not the first time it appears, but since it's associated with the Yom HaShvi and Shabbos and bracha, so therefore the expression alkein is considered bracha. One more idea. We're used to in general the concept that the Rebbeinu Shalom is shomeya tefillah. But there's also a concept that we spoke about this past year, that Hashem also listens to a person's ratzain. Where do we have an example of that? We have an example of by the mitzvah of levaya, that if somebody accompanies somebody for amos, the Marsha says, how does that protect the guest? By walking them for amos, you show what your ratzain is, you want to protect them. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Ritzoin Yirei of Yaseh. So Hashem sees you want to protect this person, even though you're only going for amos, so Hashem fulfills the ratzain of Yireyav. This idea that the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't just listen to tefillah, it's not like the host davened for the guest, but the host wanted to protect the guest, so therefore the Rebbeinu Shalom listens to that. We have this idea by Leah. The pasuk says in Perek Lamed pasuk Yud Zayin, Vayishma Elokim el Leah. God listened to Leah. So Rashi's bothered, but Leah didn't daven for anything. Says Rashi, Hashem listened. Shahaisa misaveh umachzeres laharba shvatim. Leah desired and was doing activities to increase her progeny. Hashem listened to that. She didn't say anything. From here we see that if somebody has a ratzain for ruchnias, for spirituality, that's also an entity, that also is a substantive, and the Rebbeinu Shalom listens to that, and the Rebbeinu Shalom will be shoimeya, not that tefillah, but that taiva. Okay, so these are a few ideas on the Parsha. And of course, I have a few imponderables for you coming up. And for a few short ones, obviously nobody's going to get the answer to them. So I'm going to share them with you right now.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.